Good morning and welcome back, everybody. Today, I'd like to do a project with you that is an op art project. And op art is a term that comes from an art movement, and the origin of it is optical art, and it's the type of art that usually includes some type of optical illusion, a feeling that the art is moving, or a feeling that it's bulging toward you and has depth. And yeah, so this was an art movement in the 1960s, and I'd like to do with you today is an op art project. Okay, so for this project, we're going to need a piece of paper and a simple, line marker, and these Sharpies will work great for this. And we're going to begin by making some lines on the paper, and the lines are going to be pretty vertical lines. They're going to travel from the top of the paper all the way to the bottom, and they do not need to be perfectly straight. In fact, I'm making mine on a little bit of a diagonal, and I'm also making them a little bit organic. It's not a perfectly straight line. It's something more like what you might see in nature. All right, so I'm going to continue to do that. I'm not letting the lines cross as I separate the paper into different spaces. I want the spaces to stay separated and not be overlapped. If they overlap, it might get a little complicated later. So work your way right across the paper, and using these vertical lines, separate your paper into various spaces. Okay? And one more thing we're going to do as part of step one is now we're going to add a line that works its way across the paper horizontally. And this line is also not going to be a straight line or very geometric. I'm going to make it rather organic, and it's going to travel organically, maybe a little up, a little down across the paper like that. Okay, so go ahead and finish up with step one, and then we'll move on. For step two, we're going to begin to add lines that are going to create the illusion that parts of this paper are popping forward. And here's how we're going to do it. Okay? I'm going to begin by only adding lines to the top half of the paper at first. And what I'm going to do is come to this horizontal line we made previously, and I'm going to make lines above that line. And they're going to be all curves that move in the same direction. I'm going to go from the very corner, and I'm going to make a curve around and down and end at that corner. Okay? And I'm going to continue to stack these curves like this. They're going to start on the end, connected to the previous curve, and end right there, connecting to the previous curve. And they're going to sit one on top of the other. Okay? Make sure that when you begin, you're not starting with any moving up the paper and leaving some space. Where I start this line is right here, where the other line started as well. All of these curves are going to stack on top of one another. And because they're all touching on the ends, as we start to move higher in this stack, it's going to look like the curves curve even more. It's a bigger curve that comes around. Okay. Continue to go. Until you work your way up and right off the paper. Stop. So you can see that I have finished putting in all of my curved lines on the top half of the paper. The next step, turn your paper over, and now continue that process, putting in curved lines, building one atop the other. You can see how these shapes are starting to look like shapes that are popping forward. As you continue to go and build this stack, it'll look more and more like these lines are really forms now that are taking up a 3D space. It looks like a curtain or like hills. Okay? And that should happen more and more as you go. So work your way across the paper. So you can see that once you add in all of your curved lines, you really do get this very nice effect that, you know, you have some 3D forms here. To me, they look like fingers maybe, or legs with stockings on them, or an elephant trunks or something. Okay, so now that we've completed this, we're going to move on to the next step, which is adding some color. For this project, I'm just going to use some color pencils. I have some color pencils. I think it's a good medium for this project. It'll allow us to put color down pretty quickly, but also pretty carefully. And if you don't have color pencils, that's okay. You can use marker for this step. You could use crayon for this step. Really or watercolor even, really anything would be fine. Okay, but I'm going to use color pencils. I've chosen some color pencils. I have a set of 24, but I have some warm colors and some cool colors. And I think the way I'm going to apply color is in a warm and cool palette, meaning I'm going to alternate warm colors, cool colors, warm colors, cool colors. We spoke a bit about color temperature this week, and so I think that would be a good way to go. So I'm going to start to add some color, and when I put my color in, I'm going to put it in also in a curve. I'm not simply coloring up and down, going in a direction that's different from the lines that I put into the design. Okay, the lines in the design are put in curves, and you'll get really the best effect if your color is put in curves also. Okay, so this is my warm color family here. Okay, the green is getting kind of around the wheel to the other side, but it's a nice light green. So I'm going to use some of these. And I'm even overlapping so I get interesting range of colors in that warm family. Okay. I'm going to try to continue to build on those curves, really matching the lines and shapes that I've created in step one. Okay. It's kind of rainbowy to me, really. Maybe I'll stay away from that green a little bit as I go and stick more to the typical warmer colors. Let's see what we can get. Okay, so you can see that I'm done applying my color, that I used a color scheme that was warm, cool pattern, warm, cool, warm, cool, warm, cool, and I applied my color in the direction of the lines in my design to emphasize the roundness of these forms, now shapes, but that look like forms. So this is my op art piece, and I hope you have fun making your op art piece.